Okay, so welcome everyone to tonight's event, Meet the White Helmets, Hear from the Heroes of the Syrian Conflict. My name is Aaron Nelson, a student of the Master of Public Policy and Global Affairs program here at UBC. And before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Musqueam peoples. And actually, the Musqueam peoples, the Musqueam First Nations, recently bestowed the name, if I can do this correctly, which means place of many trees, upon the room that we're in right now here at the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs. And the school looks forward to engaging with the Musqueam peoples further. Just for your information, the washrooms are past where you got your food, right before you hit the stairs. The steps take a left and it's down the hall. And for, in case there's emergency, there's exits all around you. So this event is co-hosted by the Department of Sociology and the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs, as well as the Development and Alumni Engagement with the Faculty of Arts. We want to thank particularly Dr. Amira Halperin of the Department of Sociology for putting this event together. And we are, as well as I can tell all of you, are quite excited and thrilled to have the White Helmet delegation here with us today. A big thanks to Teba, with the social enterprise that's put all the food together for us today. With all the smiling faces, I can see that it's really good food. And just for your information, this is a social enterprise run, organized, founded by Syrian women here in Vancouver. So we're going to start with remarks with Guy Steklov, who's professor and department head of sociology. So the program going forward will include a bit of background on the conflict of Syria, a short video screening, and a panel discussion with Q&A with questions from you, our audience. At the end at approximately 7:30, we'll have a poetry reading in Arabic by Rowan Nahas, a former refugee who settled here in Vancouver a year and a half ago. So with that, I'm pleased to pass the mic over to Professor Steklov.
Thanks very much. So yes, I'm really delighted to be here. I'm delighted to have us open this event. Laura Quayle, Director of the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs, couldn't be here, unfortunately, with us, but we are really pleased to welcome all of our visitors, the White Helmets, other distinguished visitors, students, faculty, staff, and alumni to this event. So today we're going to hear from members of a group, the White Helmets, that have received enormous attention. As an organization operating within conflict-ridden zones of Syria, has faced real challenges and hurdles. I think as individuals, it's also obvious that many of its members, many in fact refugees and migrants themselves, and some in Canada as well, have had to face their own struggles. So it's, I think, an incredible opportunity to have them here with us today and to hear from them. They're our guests, and we will give them the respect due to any guests. I hope that everyone will find this talk of great interest and will maintain the spirit of freedom of expression and respectful discussion that is a key tradition of the university. We'll have limited time afterwards for questions, but we will have some. And we'd like to ask you, at the end, we'll be coming around with little pieces of paper, and we'll distribute them, and you can write down your questions, pass them forward, and then we'll try to get to as many as we can. We hope afterwards there'll also be some time to have more smaller group meetings, and we can perhaps talk to the White Helmets and have more discussion, less formal. I'd like now to welcome Dr. Amira Halperin, postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Sociology at UBC and the moderator for the event. Dr. Halpering obtained her PhD in Communication and Media from the University of Westminster in the UK. Her main work, her early work, focused on old and new media and the life of Palestinians, both in the Middle East and in the diaspora, particularly in the UK. Much of it was based on interviews conducted in the UK with Palestinians who emigrated to Europe. Her research has appeared in multiple outlets, including in a 2018 book entitled The Use of New Media by the Palestinian Diaspora in the United Kingdom. Dr. Halpering's current work focuses on new technologies and their impact on migrant and refugee integration, both on the use of social media by migrants and on how migrants use these new technologies and information to navigate their new lives. It's also about how governments use technology to facilitate the integration of migrants. Some of this work has actually been conducted in Vancouver, and we're excited to hear more about it in the coming weeks. We're lucky to have Dr. Halpering here with us, and I'd like to invite her to introduce the participants and to moderate this panel. I also, before that, want to just give special thanks to Lindsay Marsh from the School of Public Policy and Global Affairs for the exceptional assistance in coordinating this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Steklow, for your kind introduction. Thank you very much for leading this and hosting this event. Thank you very much for you, distinguished guests, for coming today for this important event. We want to provide you with the opportunity to meet with the White Helmets, the people that provide humanitarian assistance in the most difficult conditions. We would like to thank the country that we are at the moment sitting in UBC in Canada. So we would like to thank Canada for leading this humanitarian effort to assist millions of Syrian refugees suffer from the Syrian conflict. And 3 days ago, the G7 leaders, summit leaders were gathered together in order to work towards a solution for the conflict in Syria, of course, with Canada included. And they are trying to work through the effort to sustain humanitarian aid. Of course, we would like to thank also the Global Policy School and Lindsay Marsh, that she's the Director of Communication, that put a lot of effort into it. We would like to thank the Media Relations Department here at UBC, the Alumni Engagement Faculty of Arts for co-hosting this event. We would like to say thank you for everybody that were involved in this effort. We would like to say thank you very much to the White Helmets that put an effort to come today to Vancouver after meeting with the government last week in Ottawa and decided to continue the journey to come here to UBC to share with us their unique story, because they want us to hear their voice. We would like to say thank you and mahaba to UBC and to Vancouver. نشكر الحوز البيضاء نقدر لكم جهودكم شكرا جزيلا لمنحنا هذه الفرصة لسمع صوتكم شكرا جزيلا. We would like to continue with our program, and we'll start with introducing you Syria and the conflict in Syria. By the end of 2017, 68.5 million people were displaced worldwide. The Syrian Arab Republic accounts for the largest displaced population. At the end of 2017, there were 12.6 million displaced Syrians, including refugees outside of Syria and displaced Syrian refugees inside Syria, which means that they are internally displaced. We have to remember them as well. Beginning in December 2028, with the series of uprisings that swept the Arab world, beginning from Tunisia and continuing to Egypt and additional countries, where the aim of the citizens was to topple the dictatorial regimes. And in Syria, over half of the country, people in the country, the pre-war populations, have been forced to leave their homes since the outbreak of the conflict in 2011, following the protests in the Arab world, following the Arab Spring. When peaceful protests in Syria against the dictatorial regime actually turned into a full-scale, ongoing war. In 2018, we see that the number of refugees in the border areas of Hama, Aleppo, Idlib, and Damascus governments has been increased, where the Syrians had to flee to neighboring countries, mostly Turkey, but also to Iraq. We see here mostly to Turkey. We see here the numbers. The highest number is to Turkey. We see the other countries that they had to flee were Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. So most of the refugees from Syria fled to these countries, looking to resettle afterwards in countries like Canada that accepted many refugees. And we'll go now and we'll look at the changes, actually. I just would like to highlight the changes. Just a second. Yeah, we'll go to the second one. Okay. In 2011, most of Syria, as we see, was controlled by the Assad regime, by the government. Gradually, there were changes of control in the different territories in Syria, and with every change, the number of refugees has increased, violence has increased. We see that in March 2012, in the green and yellow areas, the Kurds and the opposition groups are trying to start to take control. We see that the area was controlled by the government. In 2011, we see that now it's not only by the government. We see the maroon area is not now only dominated. Syria is not only dominated. The maroon area is the government areas. We see that it is dominated now by opposition groups. We continue. We go to June 2014. We see that the Islamic State in the black areas start to take control on part of Syria as well, where in June 29, 2014, the Islamic State announces the creation of a caliphate, which is Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. Continue to December 2014, we see Al-Qaeda. In the opposition groups, we see Al-Qaeda, we see already the support of the US in the Kurds, so different groups are coming in. In September 2016, we see the Turks in the blue areas, and in October 2017, we see that the Islamic State control areas are smaller, and in October 2017, ISIS already loses control of itself, declared capital, the Syrian city of Raqqa. And in March 2018, most of Syria is being controlled by the government. We see now that most of Syria is by the government, except the Rojava area where the Kurds are. And today, in 2019, we got back to the same situation where most of the country is being controlled by the government, and there is still ongoing war, and the dynamic and the changes are still there. And in order to learn more about the importance and about the rescue operations of the White Helmets, about their important work, we would look and watch a short video that will explore to us what does it mean to work in a conflict area. And we would like to highlight two very important issues that goes together and intertwine. One is the importance of the humanitarian assistance of the white helmets to the citizens in need in Syria. And second is the documentation of the conflict, which helps international organizations like Amnesty and like other organizations to receive information from the ground and to take care of casualties and to help, as well as it shows the world what happens in Syria. So we will watch a short video on the White Helmets rescue operations.
لسه طويلة كتير، مليانة بالدموع والضحك، لسه مليانة بالأمل. اخترت إني أبقى بساعد أهلي وكون معهم، طفيهم الحرايق، طالعهم من تحت الأنقاض، بوعيهم وأطفالهم ليرجعوا على بيوتهم ولحنضل سندهم بالكوارث. لأني بحب بلدي وبيتي اللي عشت فيه، حبكون جزء من المستقبل اللي ممكن يكون أحلى. لسه في كتير تعب، بس مع هيك في أمل. السما فاضية زرقاء وحلوة مثل ما بنحبها. هلأ وقت الشغل.
Bring you back. Takes you back. So we'll start with the white helmet. We'll start to talk now with Muzna. And so Muzna is the liaison officer of the White Helmets. And she received last week an award for excellence, for Canadian excellence from the Canadian Partnership for Women's and Children's Health. Muzna has been recognized for her humanitarian work in Syrian refugee camps and in Canada. Muzna Dorid, and she arrived from Syria in 2016. Canada has accepted so far the official number is 52,000 refugees, but the number is an increase. And Muzna will highlight and will discuss the Canadian government support in Syria and how Canada is being involved with the humanitarian assistance and settlement efforts. Please, Muzna.
Hi, Vancouver Fox. Thank you for this evening and for this event. We ended up here. Yeah. So we ended up here in the most beautiful city in Canada and the warmest one as well. We just came from Montreal, so I feel like us. I'm Muzna Dorid. I'm the liaison officer of the White Helmets here in Canada, and I'm a refugee myself. I was a asylum seeker and I got my positive decision last year. I want to talking about like why we are here and why this trip happening. Before Vancouver, we were in Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto for events, for panels, and also for meetings with the government. So the Canadian government funded us for 2 programs. The first one is to demining the soil in Syria, the borders and the soil in general in north of Syria, and also to demining the unexploded ordnance in the soil. So this is the first program that funded under the program of stabilization by the Canadian government, and the second one is to increasing the participation of women in our team and to opening women's centers inside Syria. So before the fund, the Canadian fund, we had 1% of women's participation as a members of humanitarian workers. So after the fund, we reached out the 11% of women's participation. So now we have 231 female humanitarian workers with us in our team on the field. And also we opened 31 women's centers that to provide the services for women and for girls, like reproductive rights, maternal like services for pregnant women. And all of that due to the Canadian fund. And this is like give me also how proud we are for this government, because like everywhere where I'm traveling, so I heard the fact that Canadian government is a feminist government, and also Canada is a country for women. So and we offer that for Canada and for Canadian society as well. Also, the last program, also like the last initiative that's led by Canadian government, it was the evacuation of our team from the ground. So in last June, when our team tripped and between the borders, at the Syrian borders, when the military operation happened by the Syrian government and its allies, the Russian government also, the Russian army. So they trapped at the borders, and by Minister Freeland, she led the initiative to rescue and to evacuate our team, to relocate them from south of Syria to Jordan, and after from Jordan to Canada, UK, and Netherlands, and Germany. And this initiative, it's really concrete example how states could help to protect the humanitarian workers and human rights defenders, and how we can help the helpers and rescuer. Because when they work for people, our team, so when they trap, there is no solution for them. And this is like, and we know at the same time, even now, the same scenario happening for maybe in Yemen or South Sudan. So what we hope to do is to give this example to be like permanent, and to open fast track for humanitarian workers and for human rights defenders to be relocated and resettled when they need in difficult situation. And today we have two of my colleagues, Maysoon and Jihad, who are also two of them, they are from our evacuees who resettled here in Canada by this initiative. And we had, just like yesterday, a meeting with Minister Freeland in Ottawa, and we were talking about the situation in Syria and what's going on in the future and our projects, and also to thank her, and we gave it to her a helmet from our team on the ground. So I want to give the floor for my colleagues, Maysoon and Jihad, to talk more and more. With much, okay. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah, to taking in deep like the details about the evacuation. And I want to just like to clarify last point that we operated from Canada and from Turkey, from Netherlands also as well. We have 3 offices in Turkey, 1 in Netherlands and 1 in Montreal, because to rally fund and to operate all the administration details, you need to be registered under under the law of non-for-profit organization. And I think most of you know like that it's prohibited for Syrian to operate or to register non-profit organization inside Syria. So this is why we are registered inside Turkey, Netherlands, and Canada. So from here we operate, we're running our projects with the Canadian government and with others for accountability project in Netherlands, and from Turkey for logistics. So this is why I just like to explain why we have an office in Montreal here. So now I give it the floor for...
Yeah, you can follow the order. So next to you, so Majed, thank you very much, Musna. And I think that you're being resettled in Canada very successfully, and you are one of the success stories. Next to you is Majed, who is still struggling as a refugee. He didn't settle in yet, and I think that his story, he will share with us his personal story and his efforts in order to tackle the problems.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. My name is Majd Halaf. I'm from Syria. So I was a student in Aleppo University before 2011. I was studying agriculture engineer. So in 2011, the revolution started in Syria. And so as any student, you should thinking about with who you will stand, with the government or dictator, or with people who want to freedom or democratic, like as any country. So I was in the university in 2011. So then I decided to stand with the people who wanted to freedom and democracy. But it's so hard when anyone like, because you can't imagine what's Syrian before 2011. So we don't have anyone like we can make the void. We don't have like democratic. We can't thinking. We can't use the internet to talk with the like through the media for. And if there is anything to talk about like it's happening for this country, you can't do anything. So as a student, I decided to stand with the people. Then for that, I can't stay with the government or the area. I decided to go to Turkey and living 2 years in the camp. So you can imagine how my life has changed. I was a student with my friend, study my books, music, sport. So definitely it's changed my life when I live in the camp. No water, no food, no electric, no phone, no laptop, no anything, no life even. So I stayed in the camp in Turkey 2 years. So for this you have a lot of time to thinking. You don't have use, you don't have technical, you don't have anything, and you have a lot of time to thinking how can help civilian.
But it has changed, right? You're talking about 2012.
Yeah. So for that, me and other friend, we decided to help civilian. So we decided to establish like one team, work with the save and rescue and ambulance. And so in 2013 we started this work. We don't have equipment, we don't have vehicles, we don't have like we don't have anything, just our hand. So we know it's so hard when explain, because when I right now explain, I still remember in 2013. So after we saw a lot of like airstrike target civilian home, hospital, civilian area, schools, me and other friend, so we decided to help civilian in the short time, anything through the media, talking with the media, what's going on in Syria and how the civilian under shelling every day. So as we are the student, maybe we can thinking better because we can like thinking and write what's going on and talking and communication, and we have like some of skills. We can talking in like other language, we can learn like other thing, we can make a statement, we can send to media. So for that we start the first team like and our name like Syria Civil Defense. So and after that we start like the first responders help civilian when the bombing and chemical attacks target the civilian home. We rush to the scene of attack to help civilian from under the rubble. Since we start this war, we have saved more than 100,000 lives. But unfortunately, we have lost 261 of our volunteers during their duty. So, and especially the double attacks. When Russia forces and regime and militia Iran entered to Syria, they stand with the Assad dictator. So we stand with the Assad to kill more people. And as we are the volunteer, we wanted to help them. We wanted to document all the crime in Syria. We wanted to tell other communities around the world what's going in Syria and how the civilian under the shelling. So some of our volunteer like media, we can talking about the media, we can give an update every day. Some of them we have like some of the skills about first aid, we should respond and help civilian. So until now, also as I mentioned before, 261 have been killed and more than 700 have been injured. That is a double attack. When we respond as the first responders to the scene of attack, the Russian aircraft and the regime, we return, like aircraft return to the same place and the same location and target our teams, target our teams, vehicles, and also the ambulance car. So you can imagine the ambulance car for any country, if there is an emergency response, all people in the street, we help them. We cross like the car to right and left. And in Syria, the ambulance, it is the target for the aircraft by Russian and the regime. So I'm with the white helmet until today. I have 6 years work with them. If I wanted to go to any university and stay 6 years, it will take like a degree, and we take the master for them. So I get a lot of skills, and I wanted to stop killing the civilian, not only in Syria, on any place around the world. I wanted to return our home like brick by brick. We don't need more refugee. We don't need more like refugee, because it's so hard for any refugee living out the home, out the land, out the memory, friends, anything. So imagine you are here, you don't have electric, you don't have water, you don't have a car, you don't have oil, you don't have anything to live. So that is the situation right now in Syria. And especially right now in the north of Syria, because after the regime and Russia take like like Damascus, Daraa, and Russia make the agreement to displace all the people from like South Syrian to north of Syria. We are in the north of Syria right now. There is 400 million living in this area, in the small area. We can't imagine. There is a small area right now. There is 4 million living, and yeah, I'm talking the small area, only Idlib. So there is 4 million living right now in the north, and so that is the situation.
So you're still in Syria, right?
For me, I'm living between Turkey and Syria because I still following the operation and respond, and as a volunteer I entered to Syria, but it's so hard when we enter to border to help civilian and to help our communities. So for me, we wanted to keep our communities alive. As I mentioned, we don't need more like refugee, and really when anyone like document the crime by the Russian and the regime, it will be the target. So because anyone, if anyone here in the street and there is a crime, and if anyone take the photo for him, the crimer, we will go to kill him. So for us as a white helmet, like this, we are documenting all of things, all the crime, how the Russian target civilian. So how the Russian and the regime using chemical attacks. So and for that, the white helmet, who is the target right now? For that, we have lost 261 of our volunteers during their duty. And thank you.
Thank you very much. To what Majid just talked about when he said that They are documenting under risk, and we have to understand that the fact that they use their mobile phones, it's something that is not obvious. It's very important for the people in Syria and in other Arab countries, as I mentioned, the Arab Spring, to use the mobile phones as survival tools, as an opportunity to explain to the world the horrific experiences happening in Syria. And journalism today is no longer a profession that is being possessed by professional journalists, but rather journalism today is a profession that is being occupied by people like Majed, like Muhammad, like Maysoon, the civilians, the citizens that are documenting where in places where journalists do not have an access to. And I would like to continue and to discuss this topic and to say that for me, as a former journalist and as a media researcher in academia, my work in the last 15 years, as Professor Steklov has mentioned, that started in the UK, back in the UK when I worked on journalism and media, immigrants, refugees. But I can tell you more than that. I can tell you that my experience goes beyond my academic research and my journalistic experience. In 1973, my uncle lost his life. He was a journalist for a very well-known journal. He died while covering the war. Last month, Israel and Egypt marked 40 years to the peace agreement. And we wish that peace, humanitarian efforts, and democracy will be restored in Syria. And to continue this discussion, I would like to talk with Maysoon, who was a journalist prior to 2011 war and continued her courageous efforts to document and to work in journalism from 2011 onwards. And she did that as part of the White Helmets. Marhaba. So Maysoon will talk to us in Arabic. We'll have an interpreter here. In the end, if you have any questions, again, we can use interpreter to ask Maysoon questions relating to her work.
مساء الخير.
Good evening.
بيسعدني أكون بمدينة فانكوفر للمرة الثانية على التوالي.
I am happy to be in Vancouver for the second time.
أنا ميسون المصري من مدينة درعا.
I am Maysoon al-Masri from Dara.
قبل بداية الثورة السورية أنا كنت أعمل مراسلة بوكالة سانا للأنباء.
I was a correspondent with SANA.
وكالة سانا هي الناطقة باسم الحكومة السورية.
SANA was the SANA was and still is the Syrian government media outlet.
بداية الألفية لما بلشت الثورة السورية احنا كنا حتى بنفس اليوم 18 آذار أنا كان عندي
When the Syrian revolution started until the 18th of March 2011.
بذكر هذاك اليوم كان احنا كمراسلين كان مطلوب منا ان نداوم 24 ساعة.
We worked as correspondents. We were supposed to be on duty 24 hours.
اضطريت ارجع على البيت. لاحقا بعد صلاة الجمعة بلشت الأحداث.
I had to return home, and after the Friday prayers,
بلش إطلاق الرصاص والغازات على المتظاهرين.
there was shooting on demonstrators.
سقط في شهداء وجرحى واعتقالات.
There were many martyrs and many wounded, and there were many arrests.
لاحقا اتسعت بقعة المظاهرات
Later demonstrations spread.
وازدادت القوة العنيفة من قبل قوات الأمن والجيش السوري.
And subsequently the violence escalated by the government forces.
كمراسلين احنا بوكالة سانا كان مطلوب منا ان ننزل على الشارع.
And as correspondents from Sana, we were supposed to be on the streets.
طلب منا ان اي المواد الاعلاميه انه نكتبها انه هذول ارهابيين ومعهم سلاح.
We were supposed to report that those are terrorists and they are armed.
كنا بالشارع كانوا المظاهرين هم طلاب مدارس وجامعات.
But on the street, those demonstrators were students, school students, university students.
مهندسين أطباء.
They were also doctors, engineers.
ناس عادية فلاحين عمال.
Normal people, workers, farmers.
كانوا قناصة منتشرين على الأبنية المرتفعة.
There were snipers on the overlooking buildings.
كانت الأوامر إنه هم يتم عملية إطلاق الرصاص بشكل قاتل بالمناطق القاتلة اللي هي الرأس والصدر.
Specifically in the area of Ras Sadr, the orders were to shoot, to kill.
ما قدرنا يعني لما شفنا المناظر وشفنا الاعتقالات المرعبة للأهالي كان.
When we saw the violence and the arrests. أحد الأيام طلبوا نساعد الناس اللي هم تعرضوا للإصابات في مدينة درعا. One day there was a need to help those who were wounded in Dar'a.
ذهبت إلى الجامع اللي كانت الناس شكل قدموا به الإسعافات. ذهبت إلى المسجد كان يتم فيه إسعاف الجرحى.
I went to the mosque where they were providing first aid to the wounded.
كانت أعداد الناس كبيرة فوق 300 شخص بين المصاب وبين القتيل.
There were a huge number, like about 300 who were either killed or wounded.
كانت أصعب اللحظات إنه تيجي ترفع كانت القتلى مغطيين بشكل كامل فكان إنك ترفع الغطاء عنهم وأنت خايف يكون حدا من أهلك.
It was very hard to check those covered bodies. There was a fear that one of them might be one of your relatives.
بنفس الوقت بنفس اللحظة اللي كنت في المسجد اتصل معي مدير وكالة سانا.
The director of Sana contacted me while I was still in the mosque.
سألني عن الأوضاع.
He asked me about the situation.
فخبرته الحقيقة اللي هي إنه في أعداد كبيرة من القتلى والجرحى.
I told him the truth about the huge number of the dead and the wounded.
فرفض الموضوع وطلب مني مرة أخرى إنه ما أتواجد بهيك أماكن وإنه تم تشديد الرقابة علي شخصيا.
He refused that story and he insisted that I do not go to such places and I was put under strict surveillance.
أحد المشاهدات اللي كنت لساتني بوكالة سانا موجودة.
While still with Sana.
بعد اقتحام المسجد العمري.
After the raid of Alumni mosque.
لما توجهنا إلى المسجد العمري سيرا على الأقدام أنا وزميل إلي بوكالة سانا.
When I and a colleague of mine went on foot to the mosque.
كانت سيارات الإسعاف اللي كانت تنقل الجرحى.
The ambulance vehicles that were transporting the wounded.
تم إيقافها بشكل إجباري.
They were stopped forcefully.
إطلاق الرصاص عليها بشكل كبير.
And they shot at them.
كانت الدماء بتغطي أرض السيارة ومعدات الإسعاف.
There was blood covering the floors of those ambulance vehicles.
هذاك اليوم تم قتل الأطباء وجميع الأشخاص المساكين.
That day they killed doctors and the rescuers and the paramedics.
وكان ما في مجال إنه نبقى نكذب على وسائل الإعلام إنه هذول إرهابيين. كان القرار إنه خلاص إنه ما عاد في مجال إنه اكتب مواد إنه اللي هي القتلى هم إرهابيين ومعهم سلاح.
I could no longer report by saying that those are terrorists and they are using weapons.
من 2000 تركت وكالة سانا آخر 2012.
At the end of 2012, I left SANA.
بدأت أشتغل باسم وهمي كإعلامية مستقلة ونشتغل على توثيقات الجرائم والمجازر.
I started working independently to document and report the killings.
Under an alias.
And the alias.
And the massacres.
Yeah. كتبت لعدة مواقع إلكترونية وعدة جرائد.
I wrote for a few newspapers and some websites.
كانت عربية ودولية.
They were Arab and international.
في 2013 استشهد أخي لي.
In 2013, a brother of mine was killed.
كان أخي وأهلي راجعين من المزرعة.
At the time, my brother and my family were returning from the farm.
أطلق القناص الرصاص على السيارة.
A sniper shot at the vehicle.
كان أخي أصيب بإصابة بالغة.
My brother was severely wounded.
الرصاص كان متفجر.
It was an explosive bullet.
فجر أحشائه الداخلية.
It exploded in his abdomen area.
كان أخي أنا لما رحت كان أخي موجود أمي ماسكته حضنيته.
My mother was holding my brother in a hug.
كان ما في مجال نسافر لأنه القناص كان يستهدف أي حركة بالشارع.
We couldn't save him because the sniper was in control of the street.
ما قدرنا نقدم له الإسعافات الأولية كون ما عندنا عربية وترانة.
We couldn't provide him with first aid.
استشهد أخي.
My brother died.
واضطرينا إنه ندفنه بسرعة وبطريقة مخفية لحتى ما يتم مصادرة جثمانه.
We had to bury him in a hasty manner so that they wouldn't confiscate his body.
من 2014 حكم عن الدكتور جهاد.
Dr. Jihad in 2014 talked to me.
وطلب مني إني إذا يتم تشكيل الدفاع المدني إني أتحدث فيه.
He asked me if I would join a civil defense.
التحقت بالدفاع المدني.
I joined the civil defense.
لأنه هو الطريقة الوحيدة لحتى ننقذ حياة الناس.
It was the only way to save people's lives.
استمريت كمان بالإضافة إلى ذلك بعملي الصحفي حتى الآن وتوثيق الجرائم.
I continued my work as journalist and the documenting of the crimes.
اشتغلنا بالإضافة تطوعنا بمراكز لتعليم الأطفال القراءة والكتابة.
And we volunteer to teach children reading and writing.
حيث تم استهداف المدارس بمناطقنا وتدميرها بشكل كامل.
Because in our areas, the schools were targeted and destroyed.
تلقيت تدريبات في الإسعافات الأولية على يد خبراء.
I received some training on first aid by some experts.
لاحقا أنا كنت من أول المتطوعات من النساء في الدفاع المدني.
I was one of the first women who joined the civil defense.
صار عندنا الثقة والخبرات اللازمة حتى نساعد الأهالي.
We gained experience to help people.
كنت مسؤولة بالإضافة إلى ذلك عن مركز النساء في مدينة درعا.
I was also in charge of the women's center in Dara.
كنا نرافق زملائنا العناصر الرجالي بعمليات الإخلاء.
We were joining our main colleagues in evacuation efforts.
كان عملنا بالدفاع المدني بالغ الخطورة.
Our work in the civil defense was very dangerous.
كنا نشكل هدف رئيسي للقصف سواء بالطيران الحربي أو المروحي أو بالأسلحة المختلفة.
We were the main target by aircrafts, by the military aircrafts, like helicopters and missiles as well.
دائما كان يتم القصف حول المكان مراكز الدفاع المدني اللي احنا كنا فيها.
There was always shelling around the place of the civil defense.
كنا نعرف انه اي لحظه ممكن انه يتم استهداف المركز يتم قتلنا.
We always thought we could get killed could get killed at any moment by a raid or something.
كنا كل يوم لما نروح على الشغل نودع اهالينا انه ما ممكن انه يمكن ما نرجع.
Whenever we went to work, we said goodbye to our families because we didn't know that we would make it that day.
كنا نتعرض لضغوطات نفسية كبيرة.
We were under tremendous stress.
كنا نشوف الناس اللي يتم نقلهم وإسعافهم كان أشخاص مبترين أطرافهم أو إصاباتهم بالغة أحشائهم بالخارج أو حروق درجة ثالثة.
We were seeing mutilated people, people with bad injuries.
People who lost their limbs, people who had their guts outside their bodies, people with third-degree burns. It was bad visuals.
لما نرجع من عملية الإسعاف كنا ندخل إحنا على المركز وما نحكي، فقط ننضم بعضنا كعناصر وما نحكي. بعد ما نخلص عمليات الإسعاف والإخلاء كنا نرجع على مركز الدفاع.
After our work in rescuing and we would return to the civil defense unit.
Center. لما نرجع البيت كنا نقعد معظم الوقت لوحدنا.
after returning home, we would spend most of the time alone.
نفكر باليوم وبالناس اللي تعرضت للإصابات.
We would be thinking of the day and those people who were wounded.
كنا نبكي لوحدنا.
We would cry alone.
ومن ثاني يوم إنه نرجع نكمل شغلنا.
And next day we would resume our work.
إذا في منتصف الشهر السادس العام الماضي.
In the middle of June of last year.
تعرضت المناطق اللي احنا فيها لحملة عسكرية كبيرة.
Our area was targeted by a military operation.
تم المرحلة الأولى هي شكلت بنك أهداف للطيران الروسي وحرب النظام.
It was targeted by the Russian military aircrafts and those of the regime.
المشافي الميدانية ومراكز الدفاع المدني.
The centers of the civil defense and the field hospitals.
تم تدمير معظم المشافي الميدانية.
Most of the field hospitals were destroyed.
ومراكز الدفاع المدني والآليات.
As well as civil defense centers and the vehicles.
سقط عدد كبير من الشهداء ومن بين عناصر من الدفاع المدني والأطباء.
Many of them were killed, amongst them volunteers and doctors.
حركة نزوح كبيرة على الريف الغربي الأكثر أمناً.
Many were dislocated to the west countryside area. The western.
The interesting thing is that you pursued your journalistic ambitions and your wish to document and to show the world, despite all death, and you lost your brother, and we saw in the film that many journalists lost their life, many of the white helmet people. What motivated you to continue further to pursue your journalistic missions? Why is it so important to you?
ليش هيك مهم إنك بعد كل اللي عملتيه إنك تستمر بعملك صحفي؟
أول شيء أنا خسرت 10 من عائلتي بين إخواتي.
I lost 10 people from my family.
2 من إخواتي و6 من أولاد إخواتي.
10 siblings and 6 cousins.
and 2 أزواج خواتي. 2 زوجان خواتي.
And 2 brother-in-law.
أول سؤال إنه ليش إحنا استمرين؟
The question was, why I continue this work.
إحنا بدنا أي شغلة إنه لازم نعمل أي شيء حتى القتلة ينالوا العقاب.
We would like to do our best that those killers be brought to justice.
إنه حتى إنه نركز الضوء على الجرائم اللي تم ارتكابها بشار الأسد.
And that we also highlight those crimes that are committed by Assad's regime.
نحن خسرنا كثير، أكثر من 1,000,000 شهيد.
We lost a lot, more than 1 million martyrs.
أكثر من 500,000 معتقل.
More than 500,000 detainees.
ملايين المهجرين.
Millions dislocated.
اللي تعرض له الإنسان السوري ما في أي إنسان تعرض له بأي مكان.
What the Syrians suffered, no one else suffered anywhere in the world.
كل إنسان عنده رسالة أو واجب عليه إنه كإنسان إنه يضل مهتم بالآخرين.
And every human being has a duty to care for others.
للأسف إحنا السوريين تم تركنا من قبل الحكومات العالمية كلها.
It's unfortunate that we as Syrians were abandoned by all governments in the world.
لما طلعنا بالثورة احنا ما كنا قابلنا الحرية والعدالة والديمقراطية.
When we started the revolution, we only wanted only democracy, freedom.
الشعب السوري شعب جبار وعنده إمكانيات لأن نكون احنا أحد الدول المتقدمة.
The Syrian people have potential to be an advanced country.
الإنسان لما بيخلق هو كإنسان حر، لكن إحنا ببلادنا سواء العربية لما نخلق للأسف نخلق عبيد للديكتاتوريات الحاكمة بالدول.
In other countries, people exist freely. In our country, they exist only, or they are created in our countries to become slaves instead.
بس راح أحكي شغلة إنه إحنا بالدفاع المدني.
There is one thing I would like to say about us in the civil defense.
أن إحنا منا أبطال ولا ملائكة.
We are neither heroes nor angels.
إحنا أشخاص عادية.
We are normal people.
وفرض علينا أن نساعد أهالينا بأي شكل كان.
We found ourselves forced to help our people.
بعد ما تم التخلي عنا.
After we were abandoned.
لكن للأسف إحنا ساعدنا، ممكن إنه إحنا ساعدنا ناس كثير، بس كانت كمان خسرنا أقرب الناس لنا.
Too bad, we helped many people, but we also lost the closest people to us.
أنا لحد اللحظة إحنا وصلنا على كندا، صرنا بمكان آمن، بس للأسف كل المكونات اللي تعرضنا لها بسوريا حاليا صعوبة بالنوم، كوابيس.
It's true that we made it safely here in Canada, but we still suffer from what we saw and experienced in Syria. We can't sleep or we see nightmares.
الأكبر شيء هو الشعور بكم إنه إحنا طلعنا على بلد آمن وتركنا أهالينا والناس بسوريا.
We also feel we feel guilty that we left to Canada a safe place and we left the rest behind.
للأسف ما قدرنا نساعد.
I'm sorry we couldn't help more.
هذا بيكون بس.
يعطيك العافية.
Talking about what we started talking about, I would like to introduce Muhammad and Saleh, and in order to discuss with him further the topic of journalism in the context of conflicts and refugees. Muhammad escaped from Syria to Lebanon, and in 2014 arrived to Canada and became a Canadian citizen. He is involved with media work and mobile phone applications in order to help and support refugees in the settlement efforts. One of the projects that he is working on is also related to humanitarian assistance to refugees in Jordan. So we have two levels of assistance. One is in settlements efforts and the other is giving humanitarian assistance to refugees need immediate assistance and therefore they use technologies first met. And it was in the beginning of my research. And I asked you about the role that social media and mobile phone application play in your life, in your family's life, in refugees in life, in Syria, particularly in general. And I remember that you replied in a very detailed way. You emphasized the irreplicable role of the media in your life, in your journey, and in your family's journey to Canada. And I would like if you can share with us this experience when you had to leave Syria and when your family had to leave Syria actually to escape. Can you describe what was the role of the mobile phone? How did it help you?
Thank you, Amira, for inviting me. Really appreciative of this invite. Thank you, Mason, for sharing your very powerful story. I feel so honored to be sitting next to such a resilient Syrian woman that represents our people, our women, and our values. As you heard from Mason, the media is hijacked by dictators in the Middle East. Free press doesn't exist. And if reporters try to report the truth, they are either suspended, harassed, or even detained sometimes. Therefore, alternative media channels are created by the people. Syrian citizens become reporters. So you can imagine how the internet and the technology that the internet gave us as poor people who have been enslaved by a bad dictatorship since the 70s, it gave us a lot of tools. It gave us Facebook, where we can organize, where we can discuss our ideas of protesting without being physically in a place. It gave us YouTube, the amazing platform that allows you to broadcast yourself. My personal experience was back in 2011 when the Syrian uprising started. I, at the time, was a medical student in Syria. As Mason shared, civil participation was taking place from all sorts of people, from university students, but also from farmers, from educated people, but also from regular citizens. I found myself in the middle of a demonstration in March 2011 and felt that I've never heard myself saying the word freedom in public ever. It was so liberating to be able to do that, to see hundreds of people chanting for freedom and democracy in the main square of your city. Such an incredible feeling.
And when you continued further, following the demonstration, you had to escape from Syria, and your brother, I think you mentioned, had as well, and you and your brother were connected and talked on mobile phone. Well, he was in Canada and you were still, well, he was in Syria actually, and you were here, right? And
right.
you helped him through the mobile phone to find his way, to navigate.
Right. As the Syrian uprising turned into a civil, or not even a civil, a brutal crackdown by the Syrian government, a lot of citizens of Syria were forced to escape and stay in neighboring countries. But after years and years of being displaced, a lot of people were super frustrated that they were ready to take horrible, horrendous journeys throughout the Mediterranean, hoping to make it to the other side. My own siblings did that. At the time, I was recently arrived to Canada. I was dealing with my own experience trying to start over in literally the other side of the world, and at the same time knowing that my own family is on the other side, struggling to survive. 2 of my siblings leave the country, go to Turkey. They put themselves in a rubber boat with 40 other people, even though the maximum capacity is maybe 10. Luckily, they didn't have the same fate as little Alan Kurdi. They made it to the other side. I was here communicating with them at every single step. When they went to Turkey, when they made it to Greece, and then when they tried to navigate the international borders, hoping to make it to somewhere safe in Europe. So phones became survival tools. There is a famous picture, I'm sure some of you must have seen it, where on the Greek islands there's a huge pool of plugs, and you have chargers and hundreds of phones filling. People were actually not just charging their phones, people were extending the validity of their survival tool. The first thing they do in any country they make it is get a new SIM card, get access to the internet, use Google Maps and try to find your way.
And I think that this is also, as Majid explained to us, when he was a refugee in the refugee camp in Turkey back in 2012, where he didn't have any access to mobile phones because it was 2012, comparing to Muhammad, who left, who had to escape a few years later, and we see that already a major change in terms of technology. And this major change is the difference between Majid's experience as a refugee comparing to Muhammad's experience as a refugee. So we see here really the power of the media, the power of the technology that helps to the refugees. I think that it was very interesting when Majid and I talked to them. We met in the morning, and Majid told me that in Turkey, he said, I wrote a book. And I said, why did you sit in the refugee camp and write a book? So he said it was 2012 and there were no mobile phone applications. So this is the difference, this is technology.
This highlights the resilience of Syrian people and how they could utilize what we have available to us to make it into survival tools and to create technology that can save lives. I could think of the application that the Syrian White Helmet helped develop that literally saves lives. An application that can exist on your phone, and then you could get a notification if there's an airplane approaching your neighborhood. So you might as well try to escape. It's instrumental to survival.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
To explain to us briefly on a second short video. Musna, please.
Yeah, we have now a video that explains our work during last year and our programs at the White Helmets. And I want to just to clarify why we use sometimes the Syrian Civil Defense and sometimes the White Helmets. So no one knows that there is a sanction on Syria by the banking system in the world. So there's like a non-profit organization, and then in the middle they use like a Syria or Syrian, or for Syria, so any mention or like around Syria. So there's like a block for any transaction from Syrian or for Syria. So this is why in bylaws and in our registration we use the White Helmets, and also because when we were nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. So the people gave us the name of the White Helmets by our known helmets, and after we use this name in our legal registration in the world. So this is why we use sometimes Syrian Civil Defense, sometimes the White Helmets.
Referring to the novel, I think the Netflix documentary, The Last Man in Aleppo.
Yeah. So we have 2 films on Netflix. So the first one is called The White Helmets, and the second one is The Last Man in Aleppo. And both of them they awarded the Oscar award, and Yeah, there's like a lot. Actually, there's we gained 30 awards from different area in the world and for different topic and like a different for humanitarian work, for media, like.
I think that
so I encourage you to show this film.
This documentary is very
yeah.
very.
They are for free on Netflix. Yeah. So try to say the last minute on Nepal and.
I think that what I learned from this documentary, and actually we watched it together. My son and I, we just watched it 2 days ago, right? So we watched it together, and I think that the interesting thing is that you see the whole story through the eyes of the hero of the documentary, and you see his 2 daughters there, and you understand that the white helmets were. It's actually the rescue operations are happening in different areas in Syria, but they have to live. It's a work, right? It's like a job, but you have to leave your own family in a situation where you have a family and the children, and you cannot handle both things together. And we see the mental difficulty handling with this situation. And I think again we'll get back to the mobile phone. I saw on this documentary how this hero of the documentary, the father, is taking the mobile phone and looking at his daughters and trying to chat with them a little bit before they go to sleep until he breaks down and cannot do it anymore.
So, but this volunteer we're talking about, Khalid Harah, is one of the volunteer work in Aleppo. So unfortunately, Khalid, he died, and after the aircraft target Khalid when he responded to help civilian. So unfortunately for that, when we document these videos or movie, the name like Last Man of Aleppo, because Khalid, the final man in Aleppo. So during he had responded to a lot of operations and help a lot of civilians. So if you want to know about more the White Helmet stories and especially Khalid Harah story, go to these movies, take a lot of time, thinking about the humanitarian work, not only for Syrians. This is the example in Syria. So thinking about other countries, we don't need more like heroes like as the White Helmet. We need to stop killing the civilian.
And also another point that is very interesting, the White Helmets, the people that volunteer for the White Helmets, we talked about all of them, their jobs and professions were different professions. Few of them were teachers and medical doctors and other professions. And it's like you described, when your university was attacked and you couldn't be a student anymore. So life has been disrupted, and therefore the people of Syria, the citizens, took the role of the civilians that helped, to other civilians during this conflict.
Yeah, so there's a video.
Yeah.
على جميع الأصعدة ومليئة بالأعمال. نفذ مدني في 2018. كانت سنة 2018 فريدة للدفاع على جميع الأصعدة ومليئة بالأعمال. نفذ المكتب الفني مشاريع المغاسل ومشروع إصلاح الآليات ومشروع تدريب فني ولوجستي ومشاريع استكمال الآليات وقطع التبديل ورغبة الإدارة ومشاريع اللوحات الرقمية وتنفيذ العديد من عمليات الصيانة والإصلاح واستكمال الملاذ. المكتب التقني رفع مستوى منظومة اتصالات الطوارئ إلى 80%. نفذ مشروع الإنترنت الفضائي والإنترنت التركي في كافة المراكز. تم تركيب أكثر من 125 جهاز إنذار مبكر. أنشأ منظومة المراقبة ومنظومة الطاقة البديلة مع توفير صيانة دورية لهما. الإنذار المبكر تم تزويد 125 صفارة بجهاز التحكم الآلي بالإنذار. تم تفعيل 24 جهاز إنذار داخل مراكز الدفاع. كما تم تفعيل الإنذار الضوئي في 4 مشاف. أنشئ تطبيق لتمكين الدفاع المدني من رصد حركة الطيران. قسم البرامج قام بتنفيذ 8 مشاريع والانتهاء من دراسة 11 مشروعا وما يزال 13 مشروعا قيد التنفيذ. مركز التدريب قام ب13 دورة بحث وإنقاذ متوسطة من متطوعي الدفاع المدني، وعمل على دورات ضمت محاور الأمن والسلامة والإطفاء والحمل والنقل موجهة للمجتمع المدني بعدد يبلغ 30 دورة دربت 1640 مدني. فرق إزالة الذخائر يملك 4 فرق حاليا، نفذ 87,500,000 مهمة، تخلص من 20,752 ذخيرة غير منفجرة، ويملك خططا لتدريب 6 فرقا في هذه السنة. المراكز النسائية 31 مركزا نسائيا في حلب وحماة وإدلب واللاذقية، 220 متطوعة، 61,065 مستفيدا من العمليات الطبية، 68,494 مستفيدا من التوعية في 61 و800 جلسة توعية، 473 دورة تدريبية نفذتها المراكز النسائية في مختلف المجالات. المكتب المالي قام بشراء 189 آلية و1619 معدة بحث وإنقاذ. الموارد البشرية تم توزيع العناصر التي خرجت من المناطق المهجرة على مناطق وقطاعات الداخل، فكان 202 متطوعا إلى مراكز التدريب و216 متطوعا إلى مديرية حلب وغيرها من مناطق الدفاع، وقدم خططا لافتتاح مراكز جديدة خلال 2019. المكتب اللوجستي نفذ 3600 عملية إدخال وإخراج في السنة بمعدل 10 عمليات في اليوم. بلغت عمليات التوثيق ضمن الأصول 4000 عملية في عام 2018. مكتب العلاقات العامة وقعت اتفاقية عمل مع الآفاق حول مشاريع تنفذ في الداخل، وعملنا على دخول منطقة غصن الزيتون لتنفيذ مشاريع عدة، وعملنا مع صحة أنطاكيا بشكل مشترك لإنشاء منظومة الإسعاف في المنطقة. استجابت فرق الدفاع المدني ل 5511 عملية بحث وإنقاذ بين غارات جوية وبراميل وغازات سامة وقصف مدفعي وانفجارات أخرى كالمفخخات والذخائر الغير منفجرة. تم توثيق استشهاد 3517 شخصا من المدنيين، وأنقذنا 10,217 مدنيا من بينهم أطفال ونساء. قدم الدفاع المدني خلال عام 2018 43 شهيدا أثناء قيامهم بواجبهم الإنساني في عدة محافظات، فيما أصيب 100 متطوع آخرين. أسعفت فرقنا 22,944 حالة، وأخمدت 2,822 من الحرائق المتنوعة. ساهمت فرقنا في تعزيز الاستقرار عن طريق الأعمال الخدمية، والتي بلغ عددها 24,771، كما تم تقديم خدمات للنازحين والمهجرين قسريا عن طريق تأهيل المخيمات التي تعرضت للعواصف.
Before we start the Q&A, would like to few minutes to give to Jihan, who arrived to Canada a few weeks ago from Syria.
مساء الخير. أنا جهاد محمد.
I am Jihad Mohammed.
من جنوب سوريا.
I'm from south of Syria.
كنت مسؤول عن الدفاع المدني بالجنوب درعا.
I was in charge of the civil defense in Dara.
أكثر الناس بيسألوا من الدفاع المدني شلون يعني شو فكرته؟ ليش إجا يعني شو بدايته؟
How did civil defense came about? Or what was the idea behind it?
دائما الناس بتساعد بعضها.
People all the time help each other.
المناطق اللي فقدت السيطرة، النظام فقد السيطرة عليها.
In the areas where the regime lost control of,
انحرمت من كل الخدمات.
They were deprived of all sorts of services.
إسعاف، إطفاء، تصليحات، كل هاي انحرمت منها، يعني نظام ما عاد يؤديها.
Repairs, firefighting, all those services were lost.
كان لازم يكون في مجموعات تؤدي هذا العمل.
There was a need for groups to do these works.
مو شرط يكونوا هم مؤهلين لهالشيء، بس كانت الحاجه. انا كنت مدير حسابات بمصرف التجاري السوري. مو شرط
not necessarily that skilled people would have to do these things. For instance, I was a bank manager in the commerce bank in Syria.
Account manager. صرنا نساعد الناس. القصة اللي خلتني أطور الدفاع مدني بدرعا أو أعمل دفاع مدني بدرعا يعني يمكن تكون شوي حزينة بس فيها فرح.
The story behind helping people establishing the civil defense in Dara is a sad story, but also has something happy about it too.
أثناء عمليات الإنقاذ كان في بيت مهدوم، كان يعني بيت مهدوم من الطيران بالكامل.
During the rescue operations, there was a completely destroyed house.
الأم كانت مصابة.
The mother was wounded.
إسعفناها على المشفى الميداني.
We got her to the field hospital.
كانت تقول إنه بنتي جوا، يعني بنتي تحت القصف، كانت تبكي وتقول إنه بنتي تحت القصف.
She was saying that she was crying and she was saying that her daughter is under the debris.
طبعاً اللي بيشوف المنظر القصف إن شاء الله ما بتشوفوه بأي مكان يعني.
I hope that none of you would see such a scene.
ما كان إنه مستحيل تكون هاي البنت يعني غير إنه قطع تكون أو يعني من أجزاء يعني هيك بتوقع.
The scene would give us the idea that it's impossible for the girl to be alive. One would assume that more likely she's in pieces.
لكن أثناء الحفر طبعاً ما كان عندنا معدات. هاي بداية الدفاع بالعام 2013 كنا نحفر بإيدينا على الأنقاض لحتى نشوف البنت بس نطلعها بأي حال من الحالات.
In 2013 we didn't have equipment. We were digging using only our hands.
بعد ما حفرنا كثير لقينا البنت متخبية بزاوية وهيك عاملة هيك متخبية بزاوية وما فيها أي شيء.
After digging for a long time, we discovered the girl in a corner in the corner of the building.
هذا البنت على الإسعاف ضلت ماسكة فيه ما بدها تتركني يعني.
We took her to the ambulance and she was holding tight onto me.
ما كان في أي شيء بنت نهائيا ولا جروح ولا شيء بس كانت معانقتني وخايفة يعني.
She was hugging me tight. She was fearful, but she was not hurt.
حتى يوم إجا أبوها يستلمها من المشفى ما رضيت تروح لعنده ضلت خايفة.
Even when her own father came to get her in the hospital, she refused to let go of me.
اضطريت أروح معه على البيت وهي معانقتني بس مشان إنه تصل على البيت.
I had to go to their own place with them, with the girl.
من يوم ما عرفت إنه دائما تحت الأنقاض تحت كل هالدمار هذا دائما في أمل.
So there is always hope, even under those debris. There was a life.
بس أنا بس بدي أسوي القصة هاي.
That's all I wanted to share with you.
Question now for the audience.
Thank you so much. I have a question for the panel, and I wonder why do you think the Arab Spring failed?
Okay, we'll just take a couple more questions, and then our panel is going to address the questions after we take all of them.
Thank you so much. شكرا كثير على كل شيء. I will ask in English. What life experience can you share with us to help us grow as human beings?
More questions?
My question is, what is the future of the white helmets in the current scenario where the Assad's regime has kind of retaken a lot of the territory in the country? What is the future of the white helmets, and how will that kind of transform as at least some violence against ISIS is reduced, but there's still ongoing fighting elsewhere?
I would like to know of the panel what the panel thinks the role has been so far of the Arab world in relation to the struggles in Syria. What other Arab countries have helped out, or the opposite, or what is your experience in this matter?
I would like to ask you if is there any self-care in order to protect you regarding this very traumatic situation that you are working?
Thank you so much, and I have a question and I will ask for interpretation.
مستقبل الوايت هاملت بالضبط هو رح خلص انتهى، اما ممكن يتطور يكون في منظمه، ممكن مثلا اي دوله تدعمها، ممكن تكبر هذه المنظمه، ممكن تكون عالميه مثلا.
About the future of the white helmets, with everything that's happening, do you think that there is hope of the continuation of the work, and if there's hopes of having an international white helmets, or what are the ways that you think this organization can grow? Thank you. One more? One more?
Thank you all very much. Very, very moving. The question relates to the situation where Canada worked with Israel to get the white helmets out at a very critical and crucial time. Can you elaborate on that? Is there, any stories around that and how that happened and what was happening? Thank you. Thank you so much.
بالنسبة لسؤال عن الربيع العربي، الربيع العربي هي ثورات ضد الدكتاتورية، ثورات للحرية.
As to Arab Spring, Arab Spring is against dictatorship, it's for freedom.
المشكلة إنه هو السبب اللي ما نجحت فيها أغلب الدول العربية أو الدول اللي صار فيها ربيع عربي هي يعني الجيش اللي فيها أو القوى العسكرية.
The reason the Arab Spring failed because
هي بإيد السلطة، وهي يعني مبنية على أساس تحمي السلطة هاي نفس الدكتاتورية.
The people are
the armies are said to be.
That the armies in those countries are built only to protect the dictatorship.
فمشان نكمل موضوع عملية الإخلاء. طبعا أنا منسق كنت بعملية الإخلاء.
So now I'm going to talk about the evacuation.
بالنسبة للسؤال عن عملية الإخلاء لكندا ولدول أوروبا.
Thanks to Canada and many other European countries.
أنا كنت منسق بهاي العملية.
I was the coordinator, helping to connect them.
اللي صار بالضبط إنه المناطق اللي سيطر عليها النظام.
The areas where the regime took control of.
كان يحاول يعتقل عناصر الدفاع المدني.
They were trying to arrest and detain the members of the White Helmets.
أو يحرق المراكز الموجودين فيها.
Burn or destroy the centers that they have.
كنا دائما نبلش هجوم النظام من الشرق إلى الغرب.
The regime started attacking from east to west.
أنا كنت أتواصل معهم أخليهم إنه كل مكان بدخل النظام هم ينتقلوا على منطقة آمنة.
I was in communication with our teams and I was following up with them step by step, and whenever there's danger I would ask them to move to a safer place.
آخر شيء تجمعوا بمنطقة حدودية بين الأردن وإسرائيل.
The last thing happened is that they were cornered by the borders of Jordan and Israel.
بعدها سيطر النظام على حدود الأردن كاملة.
Afterwards, the Syrian regime took over the entire border with Jordan.
نصحتهم إنه يتوجهوا على القنيطرة اللي هي حدودية مع إسرائيل.
So I advised them to move more towards a city called Al-Qunaitara, which happens to border Israel.
كان أكثر الاعتقاد إنه ما راح النظام يوصل لهي المنطقة. وراح يضلوا هم أمام لهالمنطقة هاي. منطقة حدودية ومنزوعة السلاح.
We thought maybe the Syrian regime wouldn't make it to that area since it's a border area and it's an area that has international protection and has no weapons zone.
لكن النظام أو الخطة ما بعرف منين جت الخطة هاي إنه كان لازم يسيطر على كل مناطق الحدودية بالمنطقة الجنوبية، لذلك بلش يتقدم على المنطقة نفسها اللي هم موجودين فيها.
But I don't know why, but they kept advancing and taking over more borders, and it was obvious that their goal is to take over the entire border area, and they are approaching where our teams are.
خيار الأردن انتهى نهائيا لأنه لازم يكون النظام ينسق مع الأردن، والأردن مستحيل ينسق مع النظام، ما كان في خيار إنه يطلعوا من الأردن.
The option of crossing from Syria to Jordan is no longer there. It's controlled by the regime, and the regime wouldn't help us communicate with Jordan to cross to safety.
صار حياتهم قطر، صار النظام بعيد عنهم 1 كيلومتر فقط.
The Syrian regime was 1 kilometer away from our.
نفس الوقت كمان داعش كانت تقدم كمان باتجاههم من جهة منطقة اسمها البريكة.
From the other side, ISIS was coming to the exact same place where our teams are.
كانت عملية إخلاء معقدة، بس آخر شيء قدرنا ننقذ أرواح الناس اللي كانوا هم ينقذوا أرواح. مو معقول إنه الناس هاي اللي كانت تنقذ أرواح إحنا آخر شيء ما ننقذ أرواحهم بس هم يكونوا بحاجة.
It was such a complicated process where we helped save those who saved people, and it doesn't make sense to let go of them and just leave them for dead. They are the ones that helped a lot of people and they deserve to be rescued.
دخلوا بالحدود الإسرائيلية وطلعوا على اتجهوا مرة ثانية للأردن ضمن اتفاقيات معقدة يعني ما بدي أخوض فيها.
Then our teams were moved from where they were to Jordan through Israel, and that was as a result of a lot of complicated negotiations and agreements that I don't want to get into.
وتم توزيعهم يعني على دول أوروبا وكندا وبريطانيا.
And what happened next is helping them resettle in Canada and other countries so they can make it to safety.
يعني هاي قصة عملية الإخلاء باختصار.
And this is what happened in short.
And the decision was made at NATO during the NATO meetings in Brussels, and yeah, the Canada led the initiative that we need to rescue the White Helmets team, and with the guarantee that they will not be like like this. It's just like a transition period to resettle them in Western countries, and yeah, so a lot of countries were involved in this operation, and we thank all of them. And yeah, so this is an example that when they need to help, they can, as a government and as the states. And just to answer about the question, the future of the organization, so we're planning to expand our work and to help Rohingya refugees or in Yemen. So we are in negotiation and like also to prepare to expand our work, and also maybe to integrate our team, our faculties who will be resettled in Canada to be like members of the Canadian Red Cross or search and rescue team in Canada, also to giving back for the country that help us to help and to relocate our team. Yeah, so we have 19 families, like 19 male and female White Helmets workers, and they be resettled in Nova Scotia, Halifax, New Glasgow, and Pictou. We have in Hamilton, in Saskatchewan, like the province Saskatchewan and the city Saskatchewan, and in Vancouver. So those are,
I think there are the highest number of people from Syria, as I understand, in Ontario.
Yeah, but no, but for us, like as a White Helmets member, there are 19 male and female, and as with their families, so the number is 127 individual, like with their family members. So yeah.
So I wanted to answer about the situation right now in Syria. So we are in the north in Syria right now. There is 3,000 of our volunteers, like including 221 females. So the situation in the north of Syria is so complicated. You can't imagine there is 3 or 4 a big country under Syria, like Russian, militia, Iran, and also Turkey, and yeah, there is many groups also like there. So for us, the White Helmet, we don't ask about the situation, and we just wanted to work and help civilians. So we hope to help all civilians, not only in the north, but unfortunately we can't access to other areas. So we're trying to help like any Syrians. They need to help, but unfortunately the regime, as I mentioned before, every time attacks us.
You cannot operate in the regime areas?
No, we can't. So there is many stories when the White Helmet like send request to you, and if anyone like in the regime area, like civilians, we wanted to help them, we are ready to help them. So like also the regime, the camp aeroplane also, there is a request for you, and if any incident there is in the Assad area or control, the White Helmet ready to help them. But unfortunately, Russian, like, we don't need to access, and because always talking about the White Helmet, this is a terrorist. So, yeah, Russia talking about like this because we documenting all things, how Russian and Assad regime target civilian home. And on the other hand, how the White Helmets save the civilian. So, and also we are, as I mentioned before, we are sent to people around the world and media international what's going on in Syria. So we just need to transfer the truth in Syria. So right now, for example, a lot of media international talking about Syrian under the peace, and the refugee should return to Syria. So for me, I'm not living in Canada. I'm I'm here to a week, and then 2 days, after 2 days I will be in Turkey, then I will be in Syria, the north of Syria, to continue our job or our work. Because no one is happy to be like refugee. No one. But those refugees, we don't have many options for them. So for the white helmet, we still in northern Syria, we still help civilian, and we hope to help all civilian, and we hope help all. We hope to help anyone, like return the refugee, help other communities, as Musna mentioned. So, but in the mean, like our mood, like to save one life is like to save all the humanity. So for that, we are working, we still working, and we still give anyone the hope in Syria, because no one stands with us. I'm mentioning for the government. So as also Muslim mentioned, when any government wanted to help them, like when all the government, like Canadian, play the big role for help our volunteer, and that is the international save and rescue for those volunteers who still save and rescue for in the past 7 years for civilians in Syria. So. And it's really complicated, the situation in Syria. We hope to Syrian become under the peace, and all the Syrian, including the refugees, we return our home, and we give the hope for all civilians. And thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3,000 employees with us as members of the White Helmets, who are operating in Idlib, countryside of Idlib, countryside of Aleppo, countryside of Latakia, countryside of Hamas, or in many areas, and they providing services for millions of Syrians in general. And just like to mention about the Russian role in Syria, last year Russia asked the Security Council to get out the White Helmets from their country, to uproot the White Helmets from their country. So how the foreign country asked the UN body, because they have the right of veto inside the Security Council to get the citizen from their own land. So this is why, and also. We have in our helmets for our members, there's like a camera on the helmet. So this cameras record all what's happening when they're working on the field. So this is why we have a lot of documentation, videos about the truth. Who use the chemical weapons? Who make people? Who attack people? So this is why we are the first target by the environment, and also by the media and propaganda on the internet and on cyber attack.
You have a question?
What can people in this room do to help you?
So, thank you. But in my opinion, just tell other communities about the situation in Syria. It will help us. It will help us. So, we are here not only for Syrian. We know Syrian is destroyed, completely destroyed in the 8 years. But we are here to to transfer the message for other countries. We don't need like more blood. We don't need more blood in other countries. So, as a Syrian, so 8 years, anyone stand with us? Maybe you will stand with us and talk with our story. Not all as a Syrian, like maybe we can talk about the white helmet and all Syrian, what's going on in Syria right now. You will help us in this way, I think.
And I think if you continue your question, if you would like to, I think maybe there are people here, if you would like to look for help, maybe we can, this is also I think important, we can connect between people that sit here in the audience and to find an interest.
Yeah, there's a 3 types of help. So the first one, as a Canadian, you have a right to ask your MPs and your government to do to intervene in the situation in Syria. So ask your MP to continue their support for us and to continue the support for Syrian people. Every day we lost a lot of people, of Syrian people, just like to have the story that you have as a citizen here. The second one, the repatriation of refugees. So now there's like the increasing of the hate speech in the country. How people talking like a far right, how they talking about like we are like the refugees came to this country for welfare and they are lazy and they are tourists and all that stuff. So repatriation, no one wants to be refugees. But repatriation, it's not mean that now Syria in peace when there is no weapons. The absence of weapons, that doesn't mean that it's peace. The Syrian regime published last year 1 million names of Syrian people who wanted by the regime to be in the detention, and one of those names, my name, the name of my father. So how we can come back to our country in a situation like that? So the absence of weapons doesn't mean the real peace. The third way is donation. So there's like our website. You can donate for. You can choose which program you want to donate for for search and rescue, for risk education, for ambulance, or like for equipment, whatever you want. So you can choose which one also to donate.
Thank you. Discuss between with the white helmets maybe following the event, and because we have to continue with our program, I'm sorry about that. I'd like to invite one of us who arrived from Egypt to Canada. She arrived 16 months ago. She was a teacher in Syria. She's working now as a volunteer for ISSFPC, Immigrant Service Society.
Working, not volunteer.
Working, sorry, yes. I also said my group 2 weeks ago. Okay, working for. And she is writing poems. One of her poems, immigrant from Mesopotamia, مهاجرون أنا من بلد غفدينا. تفضلي يا
Good evening, everyone. I can't express enough the Syrian people's gratitude and mine to the work of the White Helmets, the work under harsh and dark conditions to rescue people. They who work for humanity and disregard all strategic bombardment by the Al-Assad regime and the Russians. They face death to protect others. This impartial organization has helped so many people in the Syrian civil war. They deserve a applause. They remained unbiased to protect civilians. In the name of every child saved by the White Helmets and everyone else rescued from the wreckage, I would like to take this opportunity to thank them from the bottom of my heart. like to share with you a poem titled "The Immigrant from the Land of Two Rivers," Mesopotamia. In this poem, I talked about my travel from my country, Syria, the Levant, escaping from the thrashes of war, rifles and tanks, searching for refuge in a geographical location as far from the Middle East as possible. Toronto gave me the first kiss upon my arrival from a long and difficult journey of pain and suffering. Toronto provided me with a new official documentation as if I were newly born. Honored to hear, I began my struggle with integrating into a society that is significantly different from my own. So different almost in all aspects that it seems as if the sun rises from where it sets. So, this is good. So, Mike?
Yeah, we'll do it now.
Or, let's do it. Yes, please. Thank you. For the sound selection, please. Yes, thank you. So, القصيدة هي مهاجر أنا من بلاد الرافدين. مهاجر أنا من بلاد الرافدين كطائر نورس. مهاجر أنا على سجادة عجمية مع الطيور الهاربة من البنادق والدبابات. ثم رأيتني بلمحة بصر في الزاوية القصوى في الركن البعيد. لم أعد أدري أين أنا، لما هنا، لما أنا. تورونو حضنت جسدي المتعب. تورونو أخرجت لي قيد ولادة. ولدتني الأرض من جديد. تورونو قبلتني القبلة الأولى كقبلة الميلاد على خد مضرج بالدماء والألم. مهاجر أنا من بلاد الرافدين كطائر نورس. مهاجر أنا على سجادة عجمية مع الطيور الهاربة من البنادق والدبابات. أخبرني المارد أن السماء هناك صافية، وأن الحياة مخلوقة من ربيع، وأن الموسيقى يعزفها الرب نهارا، وأن الجنة هناك وهنا أرض الحرب والجحيم. أيها المارد، ما أخبرتني أين تسكن العصافير؟ وكيف تغرد الطيور؟ ما أخبرتني عن ليالي نوفمبر، ولا عن سيمفونية مناف الشتاء. ما أخبرتني أن للورود لونا مختلف، وأن المطر لا ينام، وأن الشمس تشرق من المغيب، وأن الزمن غير الزمن، وأن الناس غير الناس. ما أخبرتني أن السيدر بدل الزيتون، وأن الغربان بدل الحمام، وأن الياسمين. أين الياسمين؟ ما أخبرتني أيها المارد، لا، ما أخبرتني أن كل شيء هنا مختلف، كل شيء مختلف، كل شيء. مهاجر أنا من بلاد الرافدين كطائر نورس. مهاجر أنا على سجادة عجمية مع الطيور الهاربة من البنادق والدبابات. Thank you for listening.
quote the leader of the White Helmets, Adel Salah, who said in a conference in September 2016, "In Syria, everything is destroyed. Our demand is not for support to continue the work of the White Helmets. Rather, our demand is to stop the killing itself, so we don't have to continue this awful job. Some people might think that what we are doing is heroic, where its effect is devastating and depressing beyond belief. What we ask is the stopping of the killing of civilians so that we can be the people who will bring the peace back to Syria and help to rebuild the society. لقد تدمر كل شيء في سوريا. مطلب هنا ليس أن يستمر عدم الاستمرار عمل الحوض البيضاء، بل إن مطلب هنا إيقاف الاحتلال نفسه بحيث لا نحتاج للاستمرار في هذا الفدية. قد يظن بعض الناس أن من أفعل بطولي من حين أنا مفجئة ومساوي أكثر مما يمكن تحيلوا ما نطلبه هو إيقاف قتل الميادين بحيث يمكننا أن نعيد السلام إلى سوريا ونقوم بإعداد بناء المجتمع. شكرا. Thank you very much to Professor Guy Steckloff, Head of Sociology Department. Thank you very much to Lindsay Mark. Thank you very much to White Helmets.
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you, Amira.